Never judge a book by its cover or an episode of The Mandalorian by its first 5 minutes. At first, I thought it was going to be another filler episode where Grief Karga would deal with the Pirate King Gorian Shard, and that is the main plot of the episode. But there's so much more going on in the background that I'm actually excited to talk about. So let's get into episode 5 of The Mandalorian, The Pirate. Poor title hiding a very interesting episode. As I said, the main plot of this episode focuses on Pirate King Gorian Shard, who is enacting his retribution on Navarro after Grief Karga and Mando rebuked members of his crew. And by rebuked, I mean killed. This happened in episode 1 when Grief Karga was introduced as the new High Magistrate of Navarro, and the pirates, being former associates of his, attempted to rekindle their friendship, but Karga was having no part of that. So Gorian has returned to Navarro and starts destroying the city, causing the people to flee into the lava waste, led by Grief Karga like Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. How is it that Grief Karga, the guy who used to lead the criminal underworld on this planet, has no defense force, no plan to deal with criminals and pirates, especially as an independent planet outside of the protection of the New Republic? I mean, the guy used to contract bounty hunters. It can't be that hard for him to hire some muscle. But if he did the logical thing, then there wouldn't be a plot for this episode. So instead, Grief Karga and his people camp a squat next to a cave, and he reaches out to Captain Teva of the Adelphi Rangers. Captain Teva has appeared in this series a few times, and as I mentioned in my review of the first episode, he would likely be one of the main characters for the series Rangers of the New Republic, which would have starred Gina Carano as Cara Dune. While her absence was odd in the first episode, it was far more noticeable in this one. This would have been an episode where Cara Dune would have had a significant impact and likely would have kickstarted interest in the spinoff. It still could, as we get a brief cameo from the character Garazeb Aurelios, the Lasat warrior who used to be part of the crew of the Ghost in the series Star Wars Rebels. It wasn't a cameo that I was expecting, but I will admit that if he is part of the Rangers of the New Republic, I would be interested in watching it. However, he can't replace Cara Dune. Disney's just using member berries to try and distract us from the gaping hole they created by firing Gina Carano. We'll see how that works out for them. Captain Teva, who I believe is stationed on the Outer Rim, knows that his squadron probably won't get back up for Navarro unless he goes to Coruscant and requests additional support directly. But of course he has to deal with a typical logistics officer who tells him that they simply don't have the manpower and that there's actually a backlog of requests from planets that need support. This is a point emphasized by Amnesty Officer Kane, whose betrayal of Dr. Pershing apparently paid off as she's now working for a New Republic military logistics division. She repeatedly attempts to steer the logistics colonel towards the idea of leaving Navarro to their devices, especially after Captain Teva tells the colonel that there have been tales of Imperial soldiers on Navarro, even rumors that Moff Gideon has taken over a town. This adds to the rumor mentioned in episode 3 that Moff Gideon escaped New Republic custody before reaching his trial. So this definitely confirms my suspicion that Officer Kane is either working for Moff Gideon or attempting to help him outside of his influence. Captain Teva is definitely suspicious of Kane, but his prejudice towards a former Imperial actually doesn't help his case, and he's forced to leave without more support from Navarro. Also, the scene made me realize how weird it is that people are using floppy disks to send video messages in a highly advanced futuristic society. Please post in the comments other instances you've noticed of seemingly outdated technology in the Star Wars universe. So because Coruscant won't send backup, Captain Teva goes to the Mandalorian covert, which he was able to find due to R5. Teva basically just tells Mando about the danger and that Grief Karga needs his help, and goes on his way. Which leaves Din Djarin to convince the Mandalorians to aid Navarro by telling them that Karga has helped him and Grogu in the past, and that Karga promised Djarin a piece of land on which the tribe can settle in the open instead of hiding in caves as they have been. But keep in mind that he's asking them to aid the guy who helped drive them out of Navarro the first time, after they helped Din Djarin and Grogu escape. They even faced a miniature version of the Purge once again perpetrated by the Empire as a result of their actions. What's surprising is that it's actually Paz Vizsla who convinces them, proving that he has had a change of heart after Din Djarin and Bo-Katan saved his son. But he also wants his people to flourish and to be able to start a new life. Also, apparently if you wish to speak during a Mandalorian powwow, you have to hold the Armorer's Hammer. It's as much a ceremonial piece as it is a tool and a weapon. Once again, Bo-Katan leads the mission with about 20 or so Mandalorians going to fight for Navarro. While she and Din Djarin take out the main ship and the fighters, the other Mandalorians get airdropped into the city to fight the pirates on the ground. There are definitely some cool scenes during this fight. It's always cool to see Paz Vizsla drop down and start annihilating people with his Gatling gun. And the armorer even takes out a room full of guys using a hammer and tongs, which is badass, but also highly impractical outside of a sneak attack against a small number of enemies. But this is still not even the most exciting part of the episode yet. Mainly because Gordian Shard is a crappy enemy despite being a pirate king. He and his men were taken out relatively quickly, which I don't know if that speaks to his incompetence or the prowess of the Mandalorians. But Greef Karga keeps his promise to Din Djarin, and a large piece of land is permanently ceded to the Mandalorians, where they can now make a permanent home away from Mandalore. They're also seen as heroes by the people of Navarro, rather than just cave-dwelling mercenaries. While everyone is celebrating, the armorer meets with Bo-Katan in the old covert and asks her to remove her helmet, the one thing that pretty much everyone in this tribe is against. And Bo-Katan refuses at first, but then acquiesces once the armorer pulls rank on her. Then the armorer tells Bo-Katan that not enough Mandalorians walk the path of the way, that many have strayed. And I wonder if she's talking about the other Mandalorians out there in the galaxy, or if she's referring to someone in the group like Paz Vizsla or Din Djarin. But she also says that because Bo-Katan has seen a mythosaur, and because she has walked in both worlds, which I think refers to her living according to the way, as well as living like all the other Mandalorians out there, which she had been doing for most of her life, that she is the one prophesized to unite their people and reestablish Mandalore. And if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that this is precisely what I wanted, but it's not happening in the way that I wanted it. Something about the armorer's tone is off-putting, like she has ulterior motives. She also seemed uncomfortable when Paz Vizsla convinced the Mandalorians to fight for Navarro. So who knows what's going on there. But when they return to the surface, the armorer tells the other Mandalorians the same thing she said to Bo-Katan. That Bo-Katan walks both worlds and that she will go and gather the rest of their people. Of course, the other Mandalorians are initially looking at Bo-Katan like, what the hell's going on? She's showing her face, which is a taboo amongst our people. But they seem to take to it after the armorer convinces them. But I just can't shake the feeling that something else is going on here. Wouldn't it be convenient for the armorer to send Bo-Katan off on a wild goose chase to remove her influence from the group? Maybe she'd even banish Din Djarin and Grogu and work to bring Paz Vizsla back to her side. Maybe she actually does want the tribe to remain isolated and devoted to the way, and she looks at any change as a threat to her indoctrination. Bo-Katan seems to buy into it, however, so we'll see what happens. For the final bit of the episode, we return to Captain Teva, who finds a derelict ship out in space, which has been breached and the crew pronounced dead. Scans indicate that this was not only the ship that Moff Gideon was being transported on, but also the scans show a shard of Beskar alloy in the cabin's wall. So this is confirmation that Moff Gideon has escaped his trial, but more importantly, he was either kidnapped by Mandalorians or they are being framed for his kidnapping. Now, there's been no indication that the armorer's tribe has Moff Gideon. I mean, they've been living in a cave. Wouldn't Din Djarin have seen him by now? Though I do recall a moment in an episode of the Book of Boba Fett when Din was telling Paz Vizsla and the armorer that the New Republic would see that Moff Gideon gets what he deserves, and the armorer says, "We'll see." So is it possible that they tracked Gideon down so that they could execute him as revenge for the death of millions of Mandalorians? Or is there possibly another faction with other motives? During the Empire's reign, there was at least one Mandalorian faction serving on the Imperial side of the conflict known as the Imperial Super Commandos. Though, if I remember correctly from Star Wars Rebels, they were mostly killed off. I have a theory that's entirely out there and based on nothing but a hunch, but what if this is some three-dimensional chess long con by the armorer? What if she actually sold out Mandalore to Moff Gideon to eliminate those Mandalorians who strayed from the way, allowing a small sect to survive that she could isolate and indoctrinate? Sure, with Bo-Katan's return, she had to appear accepting to keep up the appearance of wanting the survival of their culture, but perhaps now she's plotting to get rid of Bo-Katan as the last remnant of what the armorer believes to be the culture that led to the downfall of Mandalore. Of course, this theory doesn't explain why the Mandalorians captured Moff Gideon or why the Imperial Remnant killed a bunch of Mandalorians in the covert on Navarro, but still I think it's an interesting theory. So let me know what your theories are in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss out on a new video. Thanks for watching.